Good evening. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Town of Superior Board of Trustees for July 11th, 2016. Could we all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next is the roll call.
Mayor Clint Folsom.
Here.
Trustees Joe Cirilli.
Here.
Rita Dozell.
Here.
Elia Gagoris. Chris Hansen. Sandy Pennington.
Here.
Town Manager Matt Magley.
Here.
Sorry. Town Attorney Hillary Groom.
Here.
Town Clerk Phyllis Harden here.
Thank you. Next is the approval of the agenda. Do we have an issue of approving that since we're 4 of us here? No? No. Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Okay. Motion by Trustee Cirilli, second by Trustee Dozell. All those in favor? Passes unanimous. Thank you. Next, reports, questions, and issues. Who'd like to start?
I will start because I was away during the last week of June, so I have very little to report. Went to the 4th of July festivities, and I commend the town staff and all of the volunteers in this town for just a wonderful, wonderful event. And most years I tend to be out of town at that particular weekend, so it's been a while since I've been back, and it's just a real home run. So that's it.
Great. Thank you. Trustee Dozell?
I was gone over 4th of July. It was the first time probably ever since I've lived in Superior, so I missed the event, and sorry to have missed it because it sounds like it was a wonderful time. And I have nothing else to report. Thank you.
Trustee Pennington?
On last Friday, I had a combination of 4 hours of meetings with the lead planner on the FLAP grant. He met with staff, with Matt and open space staff and myself on a proposed alternative trail around the flats, which seems to be sort of insinuating itself into the whole plan, and he seems very committed to it. So needless to say, we're so delighted, and Matt and Patrick gave him great ideas on you know, some of the idiosyncrasies as well as some of the goals, our long-term trail goals. And my understanding is if some of this comes to pass, it may well be with federal funding. So that's also a good little bonus. And then we had a 3-hour meeting thereafter with them. I sat in on the Rocky Flats technical group, a bunch of which testified in terms of what the testing protocol should look like, and the 6 governments who will be devising that have not yet met. So it was very interesting that he contacted us to meet with us ahead of that. So that was all very positive. OSAC meeting we have on Wednesday, so if anybody wants to attend that, that's when that is. ProStack made some recommendations in the minutes that we had in our packet regarding sort of assessing whether or not, assessing the fees local sports teams should be charged for use of our fields. So I'm wondering how that comes before us, how that question is addressed. Do they have to ask us to look at it, or because it's in the minutes, can we look at that? Because I think we should be looking at that. But I'd sort of like ProStack to recommend a course of action as well. So I found in their minutes there were a couple of things that should be acted upon by the board and not just let drift.
So, I mean, either way, I mean, the board, if you see something in the minutes that you would like to act on, you can provide direction based on that.
Right.
Or if the committee has provided something in the minutes and they don't feel like they received direction or
Yeah.
any comment on it, they
Well,
can come forward to the board
My
as well.
particular feeling is that we probably have low fees, too low of fees, and we should take a look at them, particularly for out-of-town sports teams. You know, I think there should be a tiered system, and there may already be one that I'm unaware of, but I thought they made some good recommendations in there. So I'd like that followed up. And then I've already brought this up with Matt, and I'm glad the sergeant's here.
Is
Can I
that-
bring it up?
Well, I just wanted to, is that something the board would like
Oh, okay.
ProStack to provide, is a recommendation as far as current fee schedule for use of fields and proposed, and comparison or recommendations?
All right, do we need their recommendation, or can we just,
We can do it. The question is, how do we want to take it up if we want
I
to?
think the ideal time to take it up is budget time, when we're talking about fees and money, we take in, and looking at the fee schedule in general.
Okay.
But,
I'm good with that.
if they want to, I guess it wouldn't hurt if they made a presentation to us on what, if there were particular things that they were concerned about, that, before we just say, tell pros to look at fee schedule
Right.
and without any kind of idea of what we're
Context.
thinking about. So maybe they should present something to us.
Okay.
What their thoughts are.
Okay, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. That brings up another question, that we have a permit to do alcohol in the Purple Park, and there's resident and non-resident fee. The people that were signing up were non-residents, but they showed a resident fee. I'm not suggesting we make a change to that, but I'm just wondering, do we have a different set of fees for a resident asking to have permitted
I
alcohol?
thought it was a resident asking.
No, it was, the address was in Denver, so.
Phyllis can answer that.
The resident is actually Eric Monroe. It's his Flatirons Medical.
Okay,
thing.
But
So
the
he
woman
is-
that had signed it,
Right.
her address
Yeah,
was
it
in Denver.
She applied for the.
Okay.
But it is for Eric Monroe,
Okay.
and he is a resident.
And I'm not-
It's not for the alcohol, it's for the reservation is to reserve the park.
Park, yes,
Okay.
I understand that.
Okay.
I understand that, for the park, which is kind of back to fields and parks and things like that. When we have a resident fee versus a non-resident fee, I don't know if we have different fees for teams too, then, if they're residents versus non-resident. I don't know. I don't want to get too complicated. It just came to mind when I looked at that it was, everything was written resident, but the person who signed the application in this case was a non-resident, so. But
Yeah,
you clarified that, so thank you.
Yeah.
I'd like to make sure our fees are comparable to those in other nearby communities, because there are hard costs to managing these fields, et cetera. And then the last thing was, Sergeant Chamberlain's here, and you might be here to address this, I don't know. But I would like to hear from you. Has anybody else had this same thing? DDI, lights turn red and somebody just blows them? It has happened to me now 4 times, and last week, the woman, my lanes were already going forward, and she was coming straight at. And I'm like, I don't know how it ended, because.
Yeah, the very
I-
first time I used it.
So it's happened to
somebody-
me 4 times blowing, and I think it's because the perception there is you're never going to get a ticket for blowing a red light, because where would the police be stationed to do so?
So, I've had officers out there sitting, and unfortunately, they have to park on the sidewalk to do it, but I've had them watching the lights. My own perception when I've come across that is there are times if you're looking and you're looking straight ahead, you can still somewhat see the green arrows when you're coming off of 36. So that's green. The ones above are the red lights for your stop. And if people are looking straight ahead versus looking up a little bit more, they can see that green arrow. So, but I do have officers that are trying to spend some time out there and work that intersection.
So do you think it's more of an engineering sort of thing?
I
Or
think it's a combination. I think it's an inattentive driver thing is my perception of it, what it would be. So I'm having officers spend some more time
Yeah.
out there. The good thing is though, since we put in the DDI, we haven't had an accident. None.
Yeah, I think
Knock
the
on wood.
one I witnessed Friday was a confused driver. She
Right.
just looked very confused. But the other 3 were definitely intentionally zooming. you know, so, anyway, I want to nip this in the bud before,
And I do have officers
Yeah.
doing extra patrols
Okay,
out there and
good.
spending time, so.
thanks, that's
Well,
all.
how about a photo
Huh?
system?
Well, this is what I suggested to Matt, that eventually we're going to have to figure out if this keeps up.
It is, you do see that, as you were saying. It appears that you've got a green arrow because you're looking the other way because, you know, they're not used to looking, you're on the wrong side of where you usually look, and it's kind of confusing. The other thing is I think the arrows are really small, you know, the arrows that say go forward. And when you're coming like this, you can't really, when you're looking at them at an angle, they're hard to see those arrows up there if they could be just a little bigger. And I know the lights are already in, but when we do the Dr. Cog funded grant with the traffic signaling thing, maybe we should take a look at whether or not the arrows, red and green, are big enough or bright enough. Because, you know, you're looking at them at an angle, kind of, when you're coming across like this, and you don't always know if you actually have a green arrow or not.
Okay. Anything further?
I'm done.
Done? Okay. On the 4th of July, I attended the 4th of July Parade Festival. I got to start the Superior Mile Run and then set up a booth at the festival, met with a lot of residents and visitors, and had the opportunity to do announcements and awards with Trustee Gregouris, and wanted to recognize a member of our community who actually helped be the incentive to start the 4th of July Parade almost 20 years ago. Tara Smith lives on South Siebert Court, and she recently just sold her house, so this was her last 4th of July in Superior. But we did recognize her during the program and just wanted to thank her again for her efforts. And I just want to extend a great deal of thanks to staff, the chamber, Heather and your team, and all the volunteers. The Historical Commission was great to unveil the newly painted fire truck. It was just a beautiful sight to see that in the parade. And the Youth Leadership Council continues again and again to deliver with volunteers and enthusiasm. I saw them out there when I was setting up at 7:15 in the morning, and they were out there picking up trash in the afternoon. So it's really, that's a true success story, our Youth Leadership Council. And this morning I went to Denver to to watch the Mayor of Denver deliver his State of the City address at the Denver International Airport. A couple of upcoming events and reminders. Reminder, there's no meeting on July 25th. Our next meeting will be August 8th. We are taking the second meeting in July off. And July 13th and August 10th, the Youth Leadership Council is putting on the Community Park Storytime. And the Sheriff's Office will have someone there on the 13th of July, and I will be doing August 10th. So look forward to that. It was a good turnout last year, so looking forward to that again. All right, we will move on now to, let's see, Town Manager. Any announcements?
I just wanted to follow up with the board on committee assignments with Deborah's resignation. I want to make sure I had Trustee Pennington filling in for the library board.
I'll do that until somebody else volunteers. I'm taking over West Connect.
Okay.
Anybody else want to do library?
Well, speaking of West Connect, I'm the alternate. I was the alternate, so I can stay the alternate
Okay.
on that. But
All right.
yeah, we'll definitely need to let them know because they were pretty particular about who was on record for that.
Okay.
I'll do library, Sandy, if you, I don't know, I'll give me the information, Matt.
Okay.
Oh.
And then I had Chris filling in at the Transportation Safety Committee. We had Deborah as an alternate for Dr. Cog. I don't know.
I can do the alternate for
Sandy.
Dr. Cog.
And then the Boulder County Consortium of Cities, Deborah was an alternate as well. Chris is usually pretty good about going to that, but,
Yeah, but I can be the alternate if you need one.
okay.
What is that, a consortium of cities, you said? Boulder
Yeah.
County?
Yep, Boulder County Consortium of Cities. Okay, that was it. Thanks.
Okay, Town Attorney,
Nothing.
Town Clerk.
I don't think you.
All right. Move on.
I am scheduled for August 10th for story time too. So are we both doing it?
I guess we can
Okay.
Tag team.
I don't know, I just looked, that's.
It says Board of Trustees, so, I guess we're all invited to.
Yeah,
participate
well,
in that.
they put out several dates, and then you could select a date,
Right.
and then, but I just wanted to make sure that it's fine. I don't have a problem with that, but I just looked, it says August 10th, and
Okay,
I got that down. Thanks.
okay. All right, we'll move on now to public comment. Anyone in the public wish to make comment on consent or non-agenda items? Welcome to come forward.
George Kuffner, Superior, Colorado. Board, I don't know how to express myself. I was born in this town. I'm really disgusted with you raising your hand last week to pass a roundabout. We spend millions of dollars putting that road up there to Rock Creek so you'd have a nice way in and a nice way out. And here you want to put a dangerous roundabout at the bottom of the hill. Tell me another town that's got a roundabout at the bottom of the hill. Not one I know of. And I travel this county pretty well. I think this item, and I think your item on your town hall expansion, should go to a vote of the people. We haven't had that. I feel that you're not representing the original town of Superior and their feelings. And plus some in Rock Creek, and plus Sagamore. That town hall was planned for over in the town center, and you're planning expansion out here. You can sell these lots out here, you can sell this building here, and you can move across the road. That's what people want. They really do. So why don't you give them a chance to vote on it instead of just raising your hand and say yes. There wasn't a board member, when I watched the TV, it was all negative comments, and figures that they wanted on that thing. But still, they raised their hand to approve it. Approved it on Monday. On Thursday, it was in the paper for the bid. Now, what? You're not giving us a chance. You're not giving the people a chance. I've sat on this board a good many years, and we never done that. We read it the first time, and the second time they had a public hearing. You had a public hearing, it was gone. I'm sorry I haven't been down here 10 more meetings. I should be here. Mayor, I don't know what to say. You puzzle me, really. I quit coming because things wasn't working out right, and I didn't like to talk up. We got 4 board members tonight. We should have an appointment on that board until November. They did the last time for 3 months. I attended 4 meetings, but still you had your board member up to where it's supposed to be. Nothing in this stuff. We'll wait until November. Well, I'm unhappy with November election to begin with. Why did we move it from April? I've lived here all my life and we had to move it. You people move in here and say, we want this done, we do it. We're unhappy down here, really we are. And I wish you'd get out and talk to us about some of these things you're doing. Other than that, you have to come to a meeting every night and listen to what you got to say. Well, I'm getting to the age I can't come every night. And I can't wait till 9, 10 o'clock at night to see what you're going to do. I'd appreciate if you take this in consideration about people voting on something that's really important to them. And there are several people in this town, original town, that are disappointed in you going forward with this expansion in the back here. They're disappointed because the roundabout ain't finished all the way in the town. It's finished 3 sides. Too bad we only have outsiders working here. Thank you.
Additional public comment?
Evening. I'm Kevin Ryan of 3101 West Torreys Peak. Quick just point of clarification. So I'd like to speak twice tonight. Make sure I can. I think you're going to talk about the town hall expansion. So perfect, thank you. So affirmative head nodding. So I did a survey a couple months ago that a lot of you and I spoke about regarding the town hall expansion. I did a second take of the survey released this morning. I think at last count I had about 85 participants, maybe 88 participants, which is fantastic. I have the written comments from the survey that I'll distribute in a few moments. I don't have the actual survey data, I just didn't have time to print all the data. But I thought I'd talk a little bit about some of the results very quickly from the survey. The first three questions are, of course, demographic, just to see what trends there are. The fourth is about awareness. You did increase the awareness through the initiative that you had the previous survey a couple months ago. Only about 40% of the folks were aware of the plans for town hall expansion. Now 66% of the folks that participated were aware, which is great, definitely increased the awareness. Unfortunately, there were no other material changes in the results of the survey. Twice as many people that responded to the survey are against the concept of a town hall expansion, meaning they responded with either a 1 or a 2, than are for the town hall expansion, meaning responded with a 4 or a 5. I want to say that again. There are twice as many people who responded to the survey. I know it's easy to dismiss the folks that are responding to the survey. They're on the listserv. It's the same folks. This was also posted on Facebook. This was also emailed, forwarded by a bunch of different folks, not just friends of mine that are looking to support some initiative. There was good response, and so I do ask for you to consider that data and take some time and read the comments. It only took a couple minutes to complete the survey, but I did look at the time that a lot of people were taking to complete the survey, and I could tell they were going and they were looking at the website, they were looking at the plans, they were reading the minute notes, they were reading some other publicly available information, and they provided some very thoughtful, thorough comments. So as I pass out those comments, I also have some extra copies for folks in the audience. Please take some time and read those. And then before we talk about or I guess after you talk about the expansion, I'll give my comments on the expansion. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment?
Let's go this way. Sure.
Sandy Hammerly, 2855 Rock Creek Circle. I want to speak later on the town hall expansion, but the one point I would like to make right now is I would really like to ask the trustees to strongly investigate the concept of the metro districts that we continue to see as the model for developers developing multifamily community or housing units in this community. I think you all remember that I spoke about this when you were looking at the town center multifamily unit community. As many of you know, I had a terrible migraine that night and I couldn't finish speaking about it. But as the vice president of the board at the Summit at Rock Creek, I am strongly concerned about what these metro districts will mean to the residents moving into these communities. I think they're really circumventing the rights of the owners moving into the communities. At the last meeting, I heard one of the statistics, or one of the things that was thrown out by one of the representatives, that they were I think the management company who was going to handle the Metro District Forum, and one of the comments they made was that they really needed to have a Metro District because it would ensure that the governing entity would get paid, that the fees would be paid. I look at the reconciliations to Summit at Rock Creek and being paid by our residents their fees, and we happen to have some of the lower fees in the community, but we also have some of the best amenities. Getting paid is not an issue. So I think it's a red herring that these companies are throwing out at you. I really would strongly encourage the board to look into the metro districts. What are the advantages for the homeowners? Not what are the advantages for the builders. What does it mean to homeowners and the people who will potentially be coming into our community, and the attractiveness of selling these buildings? Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment? Okay. Move on to item number 7, presentations. Ms. Craycraft with the Superior Chamber.
Good evening. Heather Craycraft with the Superior Chamber of Commerce. Again, appreciate the opportunity. This month really just to share a new project that the Chamber is taken under its wing, and kind of excited about it with the relationship of the sports stable across the street and the potential for the many visitors we will be getting into our community. We have agreed with them to put a logo on the dasher board of the main ice, which we're very excited about. So the Superior Chamber logo will be on that ice. Very shortly, we will have an unveiling. But that has kickstarted a project for us with a new branding called Connections Start Here. And I wanted to share that with you because I think many of our relationships in our community really start because the town and the Chamber work so closely and so well together. Part of that project will be an overview video that we are getting ready to package together. We've shot 3 of the 7 events that will be encompassed into this 1.5-minute, 2-minute video. The 4th of July, obviously, was one of them. We will roll into the fall and do Chili Fest as well as Skate with Santa. And the exciting thing for us as the Chamber to be able to show what we're doing in the community is also to be able to use our partnership with Steel Rock Films to also do a short video on these events with the cooperation of the Parks and Rec Department. So we're getting kind of 2 packages rolled out of some time spent with our film company. So I was excited to share that, and as soon as we have those videos, obviously staff will have them first, and we'll be able to launch them in an organized campaign. But really want to take an opportunity again to thank you as our leadership in the community to allow the Chamber to be heavily involved and really to help those connections be made. So thank you.
Thank you. Item number 8 is the consent agenda. Do you have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Trustee Sorelli, second by Trustee Pennington. All those in favor? Passes unanimous. Thank you. All right, next is the item number 9, adoption of a resolution appointing a member to the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Mayor. Section 21240 of the Superior Municipal Code addresses memberships of town advisory committees, including appointments to the Planning Commission. Vacancy's been posted through town media over the past several months. There's one candidate who's been interviewed by the board, and tonight is scheduled under this agenda item, the board's consideration of whether to appoint this candidate or not. All advisory committee and commission vacancies are advertised through all town media. In addition to the town's advisory committees and commissions host an open house each spring and fall, which most recently occurred in April. Applicants' information is in your packet. The resolution is also attached.
Okay. Thank you. Do we need to pass the ballots?
I'd just like to say that although I wasn't here for the interview that occurred on June 27th, I did watch that interview on the website that recorded the work session. So I feel like I'm voting all one way or the other. I repeat that because I didn't have my mic on. I watched the interview of this applicant on the website, so even though I was not at the meeting when the interview was conducted, I feel that I'm capable of voting on this.
Okay, thank you.
So, Trustee Sorelli, are you voting?
Yes.
Okay, so could we have your ballot, please?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Hanson's not here.
Okay, pause just a moment when we,
Well,
We've tabulated the
We've
votes.
tabulated,
We're-
okay.
We're very fast, it's really.
okay,
there's 4 of them for
Okay.
Steve Whitty.
Okay. So
Right.
I'll make the resolution. Number?
47.
Town of Superior Resolution Number R47, Series 2016, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Superior appointing a member to the Planning Commission. Appoint Steve Whitty, term expires June 2020. Adopted this 11th day of July, 2016.
okay. Motion by Trustee Dozell. There's a second. Second by Trustee Pennington. All those in favor? Okay, motion passes unanimous. Thank you, and congratulations to our newest planning commission member, Steve Woody. Okay, item number 10 is adoption of a resolution reappointing a municipal judge and associate judge.
Yes,
Town
thank you,
manager.
Mayor. Under Municipal Code Section 2420, appointments of the municipal judge and associate municipal judge occurs every 2 years. Scheduled under this agenda item is the board's consideration of these two appointments. Judge David Thrower was appointed in 2014 following the retirement of Judge Ron Miller. Prior to his appointment, Judge Thrower had served 13 years as the town's prosecuting attorney. Judge Thrower has provided exemplary service since his appointment, and he continues to exhibit his dedication through his thoughtful approach to our court's operation. His professionalism and thorough knowledge of the law, as well as his consistently high level of respect he demonstrates with regard to all participants in the town's municipal code. Associate Judge Kristen Brown has served in the capacity also since 2014. Judge Brown would be called upon to fill in any time the municipal judge is unable to attend a scheduled court date or potentially hear a case in which Judge Thrower would need to recuse himself, for example, due to a past client coming before the town's municipal court. Although I don't know if we had that occur yet. Not yet. But it's good to have one in case. Staff's recommending the appointment of both of these individuals to these roles. Staff's also recommending that Judge Miller's current rate be adjusted to a flat monthly rate of $2,000 per month to be more in line with market rates, and also to change Associate Municipal Judge Miller's salary from $565 per session to $100 per hour, with a minimum of 2 hours to reflect the infrequent increases historically in the rate of court officers and bring us more in line with what the market is. Judge Miller's here. I'd ask him to.
Just throw it.
Judge Thrower, sorry. Sorry, David. Habit.
Well, you better hope you never have to go before the
Right,
judge.
yes, I'll be very good. Judge Thrower is here, and I'd ask him to come up and say a few words.
Mayor, members of the board, staff, Judge Miller was a hard act to follow. It's been my pleasure to serve as your judge for the past 2 years. I gave you a memo when I spoke to you last. Not much has changed, really. We've implemented, the most significant change is the juvenile docket, which we implemented almost 2 years ago now. We previously blended our juvenile defendants in with the rest of our defendants, and we have changed that to see them essentially after school hours on our docket. So I have more time with the juveniles as a result. They're not necessarily pressed for getting here from school, and it's given me an opportunity to speak with the juveniles on a more fundamental level. I've met with Boulder County area judges on juvenile issues and alternatives to traditional sentences. Colette Krabari, who's here, is the prosecutor in the town of Superior. I'd like to introduce her. She has brought forward some information on a program called I Thrive that I'm looking forward to using, which is it integrates both the family and the juvenile defendant in sentencing and makes a lot of sense to me. Our caseload still is it fluctuates, it's variable, it's increasing again. I would say our average that we actually see on any given court day is 40 to 50 cases. It is going to be significantly higher than that this week, but we do have an additional day we can use for overflow and trials if we need to, which I'm told we will be doing in August based on volume. Excuse me. The board may or may not be aware of recent Colorado legislation affecting municipal courts. Those specific laws are probably beyond the purview of this particular meeting and in this forum. I will tell you, though, I've been very active with the Municipal Judges Association to discuss and distill and understand those changes and implement them. Quite frankly, they don't necessarily affect the way we've traditionally done things here in the town of Superior, but they are things to be aware of. I've attended all the retreats of the Colorado Municipal Judges Association since being appointed. I feel that's a very worthy endeavor, and I look forward to continuing working with them, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have at this time.
I'm curious if you could kind of, if possible, give an idea of is there a general trend of what kind of juvenile offenses you hear?
Trustee Sorelli, the bulk of the juvenile offenses we see in the town of Superior are traffic. The remainder of offenses we see that involve juveniles, I would say probably are minors in possession of alcohol, maybe a few minors in possession of marijuana, and then probably shoplifting after that. But recently, it's been starkly traffic, which is good. We're not seeing necessarily as many MIPs. Certainly, we see more MIPs, minors in possession of alcohol, people between 18 and 21, mostly CU students who come up here to try to buy alcohol.
Thank you.
So explain a little bit more about, I'm going to use the word alternative justice. Tell me what that entails.
It generally entails something that's more therapeutic than punitive. It involves typically professionals in substance abuse being involved in meetings with kids, meetings with other defendants, and in most cases, I think, we offer a deferred judgment or a way to earn a right to a second chance that involves these types of therapeutic environments.
Good. And give us a sense of the community. Are you concerned about our youth? Should we be concerned about our youth? Should we be doing more as a town to, help with any problems?
I think I read recently that our cases that were filed in the second quarter of this year were somewhere in the neighborhood of 350. I would say on the juvenile docket, we see 7 to 10. So a relatively small number of the cases that get written, and this is apocryphal information just based on my sitting up there, is relatively small. And again, I think the trend towards more traffic is traffic. I'm certainly not seeing, in other jurisdictions I know they're seeing an increase, minor in possession of marijuana for lots of different reasons. I haven't seen quite as much there of that in this particular jurisdiction. To answer your question, I'm always concerned with youth, particularly in this day and age of all kinds of things. But I feel like in this particular court, I'm not seeing things that give me absolute terror, if you will. I feel like there are places where we can all be involved. I think there have been misperceptions based on recent legislation, and filtering those misperceptions down to our kids is an unfortunate byproduct. I'm speaking of cannabis. Again, it's not something I see so much in this jurisdiction, but it is a concern, if I'm honest. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, but you keep circling around this change in state law or whatever. Can you just tell us what it was?
There really are a couple of issues there. One has to do when I can issue a warrant for somebody's arrest. And the biggest change there is if somebody fails to pay a fine, I am no longer empowered to arrest them for failure to pay that fine. I can't issue a warrant for their arrest if the only reason that they are under a warrant is failure to pay. If they fail to do other things, I can. So the issue becomes one of enforcement, enforcing the court's orders. I'm not certain that I recall having ever issued a warrant for failure to pay, ever, before or after this law, obviously. But it does cause the court some concerns, because I feel like I need to have a way to get people just to talk to me. But in any event, that's probably the most significant one. The other one that was passed and signed by the governor has to do with right to counsel by indigent people who are in custody. In this jurisdiction, that almost never happens. It's as simple as that. Generally speaking, we have a process to see to it that people don't spend a lot of time in jail waiting for our monthly court session. So it's not something we have to confront.
Okay, anyone have anything else?
I have a question about the increase that's being proposed, which is a big increase. I mean, it's relatively small, but in percentage, it's a big increase, 60% increase. So I don't know if I should address that to you or to Matt, to the staff, you know, and
Yes,
it's
staff's
more.
proposing it.
Yeah, if staff is proposing that, and I'm not saying I'm opposed to it, I just want to understand why we'd make such a big increase. Is this comparable to other towns of our size and the caseload that that the judge was talking about?
Martin told to come up as well, but, and typically, the budget impact has been in the $20,000 to $25,000 range.
Mhm.
And this just takes out any, not flexibility, but I mean.
Variance or,
Variance
yeah.
in our annual budget impact.
Mhm. And it's similar to, I mean, the other jurisdictions do that like this,
Yes,
a
yeah.
flat monthly fee, which
Yeah.
I like better than paying by sessions and stuff like that. Do you like it better to be paid a flat monthly?
Well, I will tell you this. So on months where we do not have 2 court sessions, I'm at the rate that's in your memo. When we
Mhm.
do have 2 court sessions, I'm at almost $1,800.
Mhm.
I do quite a bit of work outside of this building, and am available to the clerk and to the prosecutor and defense counsel as necessary. And since I live in town, I can be here for special arraignments. We did one last week.
Mhm.
Do I prefer a flat fee? If I'm honest, you bet I do. It's easier on a lot of different levels for me.
Yeah, I would think so too. I expect that. For me, it was just kind of a surprise that we were proposing such a big increase without having seen it before. Again, numbers are small, percentage, dollar amounts are really relatively
Yeah.
small, but the percentages look big. And then the other question I had is, then this $100 per hour for the associate municipal judge, is that person here every session? No, it's just when you're not available.
That's right. She's
Okay.
never had to appear.
Okay.
There is the possibility that she may have to appear on cases where, for example, where I was the prosecutor. Since I was the prosecutor here for so long, we do have defendants who are back before this court. In those circumstances, it's likely that we'll have to bring in a backup judge.
Okay.
And as I understand it, I didn't really study this, but if she was to appear just for one case, I think she'd be paid $565 as opposed to hourly. I'm not sure, but I think that's the way it works.
She was paid by the session before, but now it'll be by the hour with a 2-hour minimum.
Correct.
So $200
Correct.
versus the $565.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, all right, that answered my question there.
Okay, anything further? All right, thank you for
Thank you.
Retired. Nice to see you all.
Nice to see
Thank
you.
you. All right, I'd like to read the resolution.
I'd like to propose that we approve town superior resolution number R-48, appointing a municipal judge and associate municipal judge.
Okay, motion by trustee Sorelli. Do we have a second? Second by trustee Dozell. All those in favor? Roll call vote?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because they're paying more money.
Yes.
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 Okay, thank you. Motion passes. All right, next is item number 11, public hearing and approval, a public hearing approving the trail project to be constructed between the McCaslin Bus Rapid Transit Station and the Coal Creek Regional Trail. Public hearing's now open. Do we have proof of publication?
Yes, I do.
Proof of publication is confirmed. And now for the
Thank you,
applicant
Mayor.
presentation.
Yeah. As you mentioned, the town's received a federal grant for the construction of a trail, basically from the new McCaslin underpass to the Coal Creek underpass. And it will also connect to the bus rapid transit station in the marketplace, which that trail's already constructed. The grant breaks out to, we have, the town of Superior has a 20% match, so the federal share would be $600,000 and the town's local share would be approximately $150,000 for this segment. Alex Gorshevsky with Public Works, so he's our town engineers here, and he's going to present to you the project and take any questions that you may have on it.
Thanks, Matt. So Alex Arnello was supposed to do this. He's out of town. It's the DDI award tour, I think, that he's still on in New Mexico, getting another one for that project. So in the meantime, okay. So in the meantime, I was going to go through the design briefly and then kind of give you an update on where things stand. So this, you're probably aware, that's Superior Plaza. I think most of you are familiar with this. And the underpass is just to the left side of the screen. So we've done the underpass. CDOT has, or Ames Granite, working for CDOT, has taken the trail to where you see it ending right there, or actually ours beginning. And what we're going to do is continue the trail along Superior Plaza.
Can you use a light?
If I have one, I will.
Yeah, it's right there.
In here?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're Old Chicago would be here. And this is where it gets a little tight with 36. This is our existing lift station, which will be taken offline pretty soon. And from there, we kind of try to get away. This is an open channel from CDOT. And so we're paralleling that, and we conclude right here at Coal Creek. So this is the connection point that gets us to Louisville under the highway, along 36 this way, and then back to Town Center, under McCaslin, and so on. So that's in essence the project. It's pretty simple and straightforward, but there's a lot of complexity, mostly with competing interests with CDOT. We'll have Town Center, US 36, of course, the underpass, and a lot of things going on. Superior Plaza, a lot of things happening, and that's kind of what drives up the cost a little bit. The other thing we have as part of this project is we thought, well, this would be a good opportunity to finish the landscaping. So we have some money from SMID to do that, and we'll get some economy of scale by having one landscaper do our project and then also this west of the underpass. So this kind of shows you some of the landscaping. I'm not too familiar with horticulture, so I can't answer too many questions on that. But
Alex?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Can you go back to your first slide?
Sure. The very first one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that section there of the trail that you see will be piped. It's piped, is my understanding.
Yeah, let me.
Because there's an open ditch there now, right?
Right. Thanks
Yeah.
for bringing that up. So what happened with CDOT, and get the pointer again. CDOT constructed an open channel, concrete channel here, and we were starting to look at it, and the design consultant came up with this design to put in a retaining wall and a fence, and pretty soon we started looking at the cost of that, and I was kind of thinking, why not just pipe that? One, it would be safer. Two, it would save cost. I could see problems with the fence, and then more maintenance. So in the end, we did a cost analysis of that and decided that is actually the better way to go, which is kind of too bad because they already put a channel in there. But so what will happen now is part of our project. This is a large pipe, by the way. It's 60 inches here, 66 inches there. So we're going to remove that concrete channel. We're going to bury it and then build the bike path on the edge of it right here. And the tricky part is also going to be right in, well, there's a lot actually here. This is really the most challenging part of the project. We have a lot of landscaping and we're trying to save as much as we can. We're working closely with Superior Plaza and their property manager to be as delicate or working around this area as we can. We don't want to be disruptive. Absolutely, we don't want to interfere with their deliveries. They've made it clear that they want to keep as much parking as they can open. But they're also flexible. They realize that you have to get in there, you have to bring in equipment, and that's going to create some inconveniences. We're just going to try to minimize that. But yeah, that is a key component right here of the project. Otherwise, the trail is concrete. It's 10 feet wide. It should have plenty of room for people going in different directions, whether biking or walking. It's going to be really nice for connecting. Now, you know, the future hotel and town center can take the trail, avoid the traffic and parking, and go over to, say, the marketplace, go to the BRT station, go to the pedestrian bridge over 36. It just opens up a lot of opportunities we don't have now. So that's kind of the key link. I don't know if there's anything else.
And then the second phase of this project will be from the BRT station to the Davidson Mesa underpass, which Alex has started working on to implement that phase of that trail. And then we have a complete connection from the Coal Creek underpass to the Davidson Mesa underpass.
And on to Boulder.
Yep, and then
Yeah.
on to Boulder.
Right on.
Yep.
Yeah, slowly putting together the puzzle. So that's what Matt was talking about right there, the Davidson underpass. And what we'd like to do eventually is connect that. So the BRT station here to the underpass that just recently was built, and then continuing on further. So a really nice opportunity to prevent conflicts with cyclists and cars. So,
And that's a separate DRCOG grant. That one, this second portion here is an additional DRCOG grant
right here.
that we're participating in.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah. So ours, of course, is right now, it's over here. That's kind of our piece of it. Let's just run through these. It's kind of a lot of photos. If I can get it up there. Okay, that's just a larger view and how it's related to town center. So here you can see when you're looking to the west, and everybody knows that's the pedestrian bridge and then the BRT station. Then you look at this new ramp here to the east. So you're going to go up here, Whole Foods, the shopping complex is here, and then that'll take you to the underpass. I'll skip ahead to that slide. Actually, before we do, this is another part. We have $111,000 to put a bike shelter here. So we're working with RTD on that as well. We're going to design a concrete pad for a bike shelter that'll hold, I think, around 30 bikes, which will also be more attractive for people that want to leave their bike, get on the bus, or don't want to take their bike wherever they're going, just leave it there. And we're also doing that, not we, but DRCOG is helping in RTD through the US 36 corridor with Westminster, Boulder, Broomfield is doing them, so I think Louisville as well. So that's another part of this project. We're just doing the pad. Then I think it's RTD that's going to come back and actually put in the bike shelter. So this is where that landscaping is going to be. There's the south side, the north side. These are a little old. They've done some improvements since these photos were taken. And then we get to the underpass, getting even closer. And then back on the other side. So here, apologize for the shade, but you can see that's that 60-inch pipe, the drainage pipe. And right here, I think they stopped the trail here. The problem, and you'll see it, I think, in other photos, but it gets very steep. So to build a retaining wall with a fence, not the ideal solution. And then we have these pine trees and other vegetation we're going to try to keep, but I think it's going to be pretty difficult to do that. So there's the channel on the left side, and also on the right side you can see it. I should mention one of our partners who's doing construction management is Loris. And you should probably know, Loris was in Louisville for a long time, just recently moved to Superior, and they are literally right over this trail. So we shouldn't have to pay a lot of transportation costs for them to inspect it. I think we've got a good senior inspector from them. And this is where it gets a little challenging well, I should use the other one, used to the mouse. This is where it'll get a little tough, where you have conflicts like this. You have a light pole, you have vegetation, the lift station's right behind there, and then you have the on-ramp for 36. We're trying to screen this a little bit, protect people from noise or visual aesthetics. The one thing that might be a little difficult when the snowplows come through and push all that snow on our trail, but we can only do so much with that. We just don't have a lot of land. So again, coming around, there's the lift station. We come down here, and then that's the last piece of our trail, and then we connect to the Coal Creek Trail. There's our estimated schedule. So last week, July 6th, we opened bids. We had a competitive bid process. The bad news is we only had 2 bidders. As you know, everybody is busy, and I sent it to many qualified contractors that I would have liked to receive bids from, but unfortunately only 2 replied, and neither of which I'd worked with before. So some due diligence, called references, and the low bidder is, I think it's Western Reclamation Services. I believe that's
correct.
So they were the low bid at, I think, about $685, 900, and the next bid was around 800,000, 819, something like that. So it's quite a gap, and whenever you see that, you get a little nervous. Did these guys miss something? So I contacted them and made sure that they didn't make any mistakes, that they were comfortable with their numbers. They were. They gave me the references for projects they've recently done. And I contacted Thornton, had nothing but good things to say about them, contacted Urban Drainage, and contacted the inspector for Loris, who's worked with them as well. So feel pretty good that they'll do a good job, and we won't have too many problems. So what we envision is award of the contract. We need CDOT's approval also, not just the towns, but CDOT needs to give us their blessing. And then around mid-August, we would start construction. This phase for this year is going to be just the trail part of this. It's going to be next spring where we're going to do the landscaping. That's mostly weather related. They'll have 60 days to do that in the spring. And I think we've given them, I think Alex booked December 15th. It might be a little sooner than that, but that's about their time frame. So it won't be pretty until next year, but by the end of this year, we'll be able to use it to connect everything. So I think there's maybe a few more. No, that looks to be about it. So
I have a question about the 60-inch pipe. You're going to have a big, nice grate over that, so nobody goes inside of that?
actually, it's going to be better than that. What we're going to do is, if you know what a head wall is, that's that large piece of concrete on the end of these pipes. Those will get removed on either end, and we'll put large diameter manholes on either end, and then connect the pipe to the manholes, and everything will be buried. The only thing you'll see is the manhole lid. You know, 4-foot diameter lid.
That's, yeah, because that big 60-inch pipe sitting out there is kind of...
Yeah, you won't see any pipe, just a lid, and I think it'll be pretty unnoticed, especially when the vegetation takes hold. And we are adding a little concrete pan just on the north side to catch some of those surface flows.
Well, I'm just talking about people going inside of
Sure,
it,
sure, nobody's going to get in it. I mean, you could ask that. A better question would be for CDOT, because theirs is open.
Well, that's what I was looking
downstream.
at, the one that was open, yeah.
I would imagine, the ones I've seen would have grates
Yeah.
on them to kind of prevent animals or people from getting in it. I don't know if they're finished. I don't know if it has one yet. But
I think we should ask that of CDOT if that pipe that you showed is going to
Yeah.
stay like that. They need to put a grate over it.
yeah, I
so
don't mind
that you
asking the
can't-
question.
Otherwise, we're going to have the sheriff's deputies crawling in there trying to get people out of there.
Additional questions?
So total out of pocket for the town of Superior.
It was 600,000.
No, 150,000 is our
Yeah.
match.
That's our, that's.
I'm sorry for that.
That's our match.
Yeah, our
That's our
match.
grant.
Okay.
I'm sorry. And actually, yeah, I think that is the total, and that'll include
Construction and landscaping,
and construction management, right?
right,
Or at Loris,
That's our,
okay.
yeah. I think the total project, Matt, if I'm not mistaken, if you have it in front of you, I think was around 900.
800 something.
Right here. Yeah, we added a contingency on the bike shelter as well.
And is the bike shelter a shelter, or is it just a parking?
So what they
Is it
look
covered?
like, and I'd never heard of them until recently, but basically, it just looks like, it's fencing, it's a metal structure with a roof, and then inside are racks.
Right.
So you can get them in very tight and efficiently. I don't know how it operates. Do you have to have a key? Have you have approved or a card that lets you in? But it's a safe and secure place to keep your bikes, keep them out of the weather. And, because right now, they use those lockers, and they only have, I think, 4 or 5 of those. So I think much better way to do that.
Okay, anything further from the board? I'd like to open it up for public comment. Anything?
Okay. Let me find it here.
Okay.
I'd like to,
Well, before we do that,
Oh,
let's.
I thought you
wanna
were
do-
asking.
No, I want to do public comment. Okay, thanks for the presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone in the public like to make any public comment during our public hearing? Okay, seeing none. Anything further before we close the public hearing? And do we need to, are we going to act on both of these after we close the public hearing? We'll do
yes.
both A and B? Okay. All right, anything further before we close the public hearing? Okay, public hearing's closed. All right, Trustee Sorelli.
I'd like to propose that the board approve Town of Superior Resolution Number R-49. Resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Superior approving the Superior Trail from the McCaslin Bus Rapid Transit Station to the Coal Creek Regional Trail.
Okay, motion by Trustee Sorelli, second by Trustee Pennington, and,
There's no money on.
okay, we do a regular vote on that. All those in favor?
It's money.
A was,
A
A is not.
It's not,
Okay.
the contract is,
Okay, so A passes unanimous.
Okay.
All right, who'd like to read B?
yeah. Find it here.
I got it. If
You got it? Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Town of Superior, Resolution Number R50, Series 2016, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Superior approving a construction contract with Western States Reclamation, Inc. for construction of the Superior Trail Project, McCaslin Bus Rapid Transit Station to Coal Creek.
Okay, motion by Trustee Dozal, second by Trustee Sorelli. Roll call vote.
Dozell,
Yes.
Sorelli,
Yes.
Pennington,
Yes.
Folsom.
Yes. Okay, thank you. That passes unanimous. All right, we're on to item number 12, discussion of town hall expansion.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, we've scheduled additional time for the board to have discussion and review of a new option that the board has not had a chance to review in a public town board meeting setting. This new option is a one-level, one-story option, incorporates additional landscaping along First Avenue, and eliminates some parking with some interior design changes. Our architectural consultant from Anderson Hallis is here tonight, and they're going to provide an overview of the changes and then open it up for discussion and comments.
Great. Okay, thank you, and good to see you all again.
So just wanted to flip through. I wonder, maybe we could dim the lights just a oh, great, thank you very much. You all have, some of you were able to see where we were at the community open house on the 1st of last month. But this is our opportunity to share this with you currently. So I'm just going to flip through some of our slides. Oops. Here we go. Okay. So project to date, just real quick, as you all know, we started our work in March, looked at what the needs were, test fit those, asked for your feedback, provided 3 design alternatives back in May, worked with Franz and Pittman to kind of refine the cost estimates, and tonight we're going to show you a revised design that's a 1-story solution. And also a smaller square footage footprint than you saw previously. And we've also had the community open house, as I mentioned, and made revisions to the site plan based on some of that feedback. Just to go over the goals again, these are similar, same as what you've seen before. So our goals are to enhance the customer service, provide the efficiencies within the operations for Town Hall, provide a compatible addition to the existing building, and also have a cost-effective solution. So the update tonight, as you all know, we had 3 options previously. So the main revision is that it's smaller in the size, and that also resulted in a 1-story solution. We really tried to minimize the impact to this portion, or the existing building, and so this portion of the design. We included some open office areas at your urging, provided a variety of meeting rooms for both business operations for the town and for community use. And we also have looked at the site and are trying to provide a buffer on the west side. So that leads us to option 4, as we call it. So this is the site plan. Again, I do want to explain, since I last saw you back in May, we were looking at different options for the front door. We did a study and a cost analysis, and having the front door remain where it is today was the feedback, and so that's the solution that we've been pursuing. So the front door, again, is still to this side. This is your existing parking area. And we've eliminated the parking along First Avenue here and looked at adding some buffer vegetation between the addition and the neighbors. Okay. Really from day one, we've tried to be sensitive to the neighborhood context in the scale of the building, the massing, how the roof lays out, and the site layout, and also by trying to be compatible both with this building and with the neighboring buildings surrounding us. So one of the aspects that we looked at was studying how the mass of this building would fit in, and where our buildable area, which is this dashed line, is versus the adjacent neighbors, the bungalow beyond, and of course the existing town hall. So this is a view looking south and looking east, and I'll show you how the current scheme fits in with this in just a minute. So the floor plan, as I mentioned, coming in the existing front door, trying to really minimize the impact to the existing building. So the administrative offices would remain, clerk's office would remain, opening up this area to be a planner's office that could have the shared workspace, and then a future workspace and some of the other administrative needs around this area. The lobby would remain essentially the same as it is, except we would be coming through where the current meeting room is. The boardroom would remain the same. Again, one of the considerations is trying to remain operational for you all while the construction of the addition would go on. So that's an important factor. So here you'll see that the meeting rooms are really as close to the front entrance as we can push them. A little bit of a kitchen and break room that will serve all of the meeting rooms too. We also have a solution here that can close off the remainder of the building for off-hours use, so that it can be locked down very easily. In terms of the office layout and department layout, this is the building department with a window, again, trying to keep that area as close to the front door as possible. open office area there. The green in this area is the Parks and Recreation Department, and again, trying to have some open office areas there. Public Works is over in this area, and then this is the area for the Sheriff's Department up here, and then finances over in the darker green. So this is a kind of a character study of what this could look like. So again, trying to vary the roof, but be a little bit more simple than the current roof. Compatible materials as well. I mentioned that we had studied kind of what the buildable area with the dashed line is. So this shows you that we're well below our height, and that helps with the scale and the feel with the context with the neighborhood. And also have kind of tried to pull it in as much as we can from the neighborhood, but yet meet the square footage needs that we have. And we're just over about 9,000 square feet with this solution, which is a significant reduction than the previous three, and we really kind of pushed and pulled at it to make it as efficient as possible. And then this is just a little fly through, if it's going to cooperate. So there we go. So this is kind of a bird's eye view of going around the building. So this would be the main meeting area, Sheriff's Department on this end, Public Works over here. This is your existing garage, which would be storage for the Parks and Rec Department that they need. And then the existing building is all of this mass right here. I'll just go through it again so you can see it one more time. Okay. Again, existing building here, so a little bit of a link. Meeting rooms, the west elevation, and the south elevation with the existing garage retained. And then that brings us to the floor plan again. And that's what I have for you. So are there any questions at this point?
What did you give up from the previous iterations?
Good question. And really, we scaled it in as much as possible. Let me go back to the floor plan real quick. So the open office areas helped us. We really reduced the circulation with the two-story options. That was the biggest move by going from 2 stories to 1 story. We reduced the need and the cost of an elevator by doing that, but also the footprint that takes along with the machinery that the elevator needs. 2 sets of stairwells, all of that really helped us just in a big sense. And then other than that, we really scaled back. Each department just got a little bit tighter. And Rebecca, am I missing anything in terms of the general?
So I think we got rid of a meeting room.
Yes.
To reduce the number of meetings.
Yeah. So we do have 1 small meeting room right here in the existing building. We have the board meeting room adjacent to the board room, and then the multi-purpose room is right here. So we had several different meeting rooms kind of spread out throughout the building, but really the biggest move was going from 2 stories to 1 story. That helped us the most. And also I think that alleviates some of the concerns of the mass of the addition. By taking it down, it makes it more compatible with the neighborhood. So it was a 2-for-1.
And then the second question, could you show the profile? The next.
The site section again, or the, oops, this one?
No, back a couple. One more. No, not that one. There aren't that many, so I'll get to it eventually. No, the one that shows the roof pitch.
Keep going back.
Now go forward.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I think it's the next one. One more. We could do this all night.
We
right
could.
There. Yeah. That central longhouse there
Right here.
just seems odd to me. Is that pitch the same on the roof? Is that pitch duplicated anywhere else?
This pitch is the same as what you've got in the existing
Yeah.
building.
It may be because it's so long.
Again, this is a kind of a bird's eye view.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you
yeah.
don't always see that.
So go to a couple of previous ones. Back again. There. Even there, I just sort of feel like that's been dropped in. And I just want to make sure that that is compatible with the look of the rest of the building. Is the window arrangement and the window style compatible with the rest of the building? When this is built, I think the most successful additions don't look like additions, So if there's any way we can integrate it successfully with materials and shapes and all that kind of
Sure.
stuff to make it look like it was built this
Sure.
way, as
Mhm.
close as possible.
Mhm.
But anyway, that keeps sort of popping out to me as a bit of a sore
Size of
thumb.
that room. Okay, thank you. To answer one of your questions in the middle of that, the windows are compatible with the existing
Okay, good.
scale of the windows. We have some variety just based on the size of this room, for example.
What's the material on the face of that?
Right now, we're looking at maybe a reclaimed wood in this particular area, but we're also trying to look at flagstone and a mix of pre-finished siding to reduce the maintenance on the building.
Is reclaimed wood used elsewhere
Mhm.
on this existing building?
No, that would be a new material.
Okay.
Okay, Trustee Giselle.
I thought I would see the separate secure entrance for the sheriff's department in this concept be moved around to the north side, somewhere along the north side. So instead of staying in the back of the building where there is no parking now, but for them to walk around from the parking lot and around and then down and come in that back entrance, I thought maybe it would move up there.
Yes.
Yes.
And we haven't made that revision. We wanted to have this meeting and get your feedback and pursue that. We do have some good solutions for how we can look at that, of either having the entrance for the sheriff department come in here, closer to several parking spaces along here, maybe off of the north, but that would be kind of the next level where we're headed. But we do
Okay.
have some solutions. that
Yeah,
we
it
can-
would seem like
that
it
are
would make
workable.
sense, workable to put it in
Mhm.
that, somewhere
Mhm.
on that corner up there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything further? I know we've got Sergeant Chamberlain here, and I think it'd be good to hear from him kind of a little bit more about if this would be a good time for that. We've had a lot of discussion and comments about how Sheriff's Substation would be integrated here, so I think it'd be great to hear from Sergeant Chamberlain on kind of what is a substation, how does it operate, what are the impacts to the neighborhoods and
the
so
community.
on.
So our substation currently now where it sits, it has very little impact over there. I've heard comments that people think that that's probably the best place for us because we're so close to where the shopping is and where our calls are. Our officers don't spend time in the substation. The majority of their time is out patrolling all the neighborhoods and patrolling in through the marketplace and areas like that. We're not usually sitting in a substation. We're not firemen. So the impact is not that great. And speaking to the officers who work night shift, I've asked them, how many times a night do you average going in and out of the substation, whether it's to handle a phone call, most of them handle it by their phone, or to eat your lunch, or use the restroom, and most of them are using it 3 to 4 times a night, and that includes the time that they get to the substation to start their shift, and they go there at the end of the shift to finish their work. So it's not a lot of extra traffic with us driving in and out of the substations. We don't bring prisoners to our substation. All of our prisoner transports are taken directly to jail. So if we make an arrest, they go straight to jail. The only people we normally interview inside a substation is a victim, not a suspect. So those people who come to our substation to make a report or file a report, we'll talk to them in the office. We don't do prisoner interviews or suspect interviews normally in our substation. So are there specific questions that the board has for me in regards to this?
Question about why town hall? Why is it an advantage to have the sheriff's substation at town hall versus somewhere else?
It gets us more involved with the town staff, the town board, and the community. In our office, we see people when they come in to file a complaint or a report, if they've been a victim of some crime. When I come over to here, which I do often during the week, so I'm making numerous trips throughout the week, coming over here to drop off tickets, for the officers to come here for court. Wherever we're driving from, I end up at Town Hall to meet with Matt, Martin, Paul, whoever it happens to be. I have a lot of meetings over here. I'm always having to drive from my office over to here. So it's in some ways a convenience issue. But I also see people all the time in the lobby, and people will stop and talk to me. They won't stop by the substation just to talk, but when they see me in a different arena, such as in here, they're just more comfortable just talking and asking what's going on in town, just more community-oriented than being off in a little satellite office.
And how has the movement of the department affected the sheriff's office?
To where we've moved now?
Well, at one time you were at the fire at Station 5, and then, you know, there have been various moves since. I mean, just speak.
There's been one move. We started at the
Okay.
fire station.
Okay.
We were in a closet. We had, 4 to 5 officers, and we had just over 500 square feet for everyone to work in. It was a very cramped, tight area. They did the addition to the fire station, but they didn't add any space to our area. They took care of the fire department side, but they were not moving or rearranging our office in any way. So we moved over to the marketplace, which in some ways isn't a bad location. My administrative assistant who sits up at the front, it's all glass at the front. She has no protection. We put the big star on the window, which kind of hides her a little bit. And we designed her office to put her computer screens up so that if someone bad comes to the office, she can kind of hide and not be seen. We have a CrossFit place next to us, and their choice of music isn't always the best. Sometimes it's not too bad, but they're very loud. When they first moved in, it took me several trips going over there to get them to stop bouncing the big medicine balls off the wall and knocking all the keys out of my key box and onto my floor. So it's a very loud and inconvenient place for us to be.
Okay. Other questions?
Of course, this is a residential community. Sirens, how often do your officers use sirens in the middle of the night?
So in the middle of the night, we are authorized to run with lights and sirens to any emergency call or any call in progress. The way this town is designed, the majority of the time officers are not ever running with lights and sirens. If it's an accident during the day, something medical related that we have to get to fast, but if it's an in-progress call, we're not usually turning on our sirens, because anywhere in here, if I turn it on over here, you're going to hear it in Rock Creek. We're not trying to let people know that we're coming. If we get a report of a burglary in progress, we don't want the bad guys to know we're coming. So they don't, especially at night, they're not running very often with sirens. And again, most of the time when they're running with sirens, they're out driving in the community. So it's not necessarily affecting original town. They're already in Rock Creek responding to someplace. So if they're turning the sirens, it's over there or at the marketplace, or it doesn't matter where it is. It's not like it's always centralized coming from this office.
Thank you. All right, anything additional from staff? I think we'll open it up for public comment, and then I'm sure we'll have further
Did we
discussion.
get any idea of the cost of option 4, or relative at least to options 1, 2, and 3?
Excuse me, Paul Nellis, town staff. I'll answer the second part of that first, Trustee Pennington. Obviously, as Ms. Hallis identified, the square footage associated with this option is material less than options 1 through 3, as well as the single-story profile. Both of those factors make this cost option, materially less. And working with Franz and Pittman, who's our pre-construction services contractor, helping us price these options, we're working through this, but this is something that is, is close to budget, is all we can say right now.
This would be for the town manager. Does this design accommodate enough space for a reasonable amount of staff growth? And I was also thinking about the sheriff's office. Would that accommodate additional deputies?
Yeah, we tried to incorporate any projected future growth in staff that we think may occur, with keeping in mind the town's philosophy of contracting out most of our services. If there is a significant change in that philosophy, I can't say comfortably that this would accommodate that, but under our current philosophy, yes.
And how about the sheriff's?
Yeah, we have 2 additional deputies in the 5-year budget plan, depending on growth, and this would accommodate that.
And one last question, I guess, is on the pros area, Park and Recreation. I'm not trying to pick on them, but it seems like their offices seem to be the biggest ones, and there's 2 to an office, but they seem to be rather large. So I don't know if the efficiency of that space is planned out as well. And there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
How many people do we have, and how many
The
Patrick
Parks
have?
and Recreation staff has more internal administrative staff compared to field staff, and the Public Works Department has more field staff compared to administrative staff. So that's what you're seeing there. That's reflected there.
There's room there if somebody needs to squish together in the
Yeah, yeah.
future too, because it looks like there's room there.
Okay, I'd like to offer an opportunity for public comment on this item. So if you'd like to make public comment, just give a wave and I'll signal you to come up and make some comments.
Good evening. I'm Robin Russell from 110 West Williams, Superior. And I'd like to say I'm thankful that you guys changed it to a single level and are working on the square footage to make it look a little better than the 2-story deal. And the buffer on the west, I think, is an important idea, and I'm glad to see that to protect the people that live there from all the parking and noise that'd cause. I'm still opposed to having the sheriff's station here if it could be located somewhere else. I still think there'd be a significant amount of traffic from that personally, and impact the people that live right next to it. Cars driving by late in the night and get your dog barking and stuff like that. So I'd still like to see a change there if possible, but thanks for making the changes you have.
Thank you. Additional public comment?
Evening. I'm Kevin Ryan on West Torreys Peak. First, I'd like to thank the town for increasing the public awareness of the town hall expansion. I think the campaign was effective, and I have confidence that you'll continue to increase town awareness on issues of importance like this. I suggest something in the future, maybe something a bit non-digital, like a booth at the upcoming Chili Fest, Beer Fest thing that we have in the fall, or even an old school mailer to the community. There are still folks based on the survey that, surprising to me, had zero awareness of this. So we need to continue with that. Unfortunately, the awareness has not helped with my support or most of those in the community that I've talked to. So I would request logic prevail and direct staff to halt development of the additional architectural drawings and the larger RFP process until the community survey is complete. I'm not sure logic has been used in the justification provided to the town to date or the original reasons. We're told the reasons are to be cost effective, for convenience of the community, and for public safety. With regard to being cost effective, the best estimate for the administrative efficiencies provided by the town staff is $10,000 per year in administrative efficiency and $30,000 in lease costs. The $2.6 or $3 million expansion can't be explained away with $10,000 and $30,000 in lease costs. Let logic apply. With regard to convenience of the community, I don't doubt it's inconvenient to go from one building for a permit, second building to pay for that permit. But that inconvenience, in my view, is insignificant when compared to the inconvenience of working parents trying to shuttle kids across multiple towns for activities that logically should be in our town. If this were purely the convenience of the community, then we should invest in additional online services so that permitting and payment could be done electronically. Let logic apply. With regard to the safety and convenience of the police substation, it's worth noting that the town's 2012 annual work plan Our then mayor and town staff justified moving the substation from the fire station to the retail space to be more centrally located. Now that's not centrally located enough. Further, we rarely see a police substation combined with town offices where the community is in and out. I was a bit frightened today to hear the sheriff say that he was concerned about the bad guys at the shopping center. I'd be equally concerned about bad guys in town hall. We should keep the police substation in a standalone building or with other first responders. Move back to the fire department on Indiana. Let logic apply. Finally, I'd like to address the risk of changing the character of original town with a large, I think the total square footage is still 15 or 16,000 square feet. I had the privilege of speaking to Mrs. Bennett this afternoon. She owns the small house and cottage adjacent to where we are this evening. Her house was built many years ago by her grandfather, a bit closer to the creek before being relocated after a flood by the Red Cross. It stands as a reminder of our mining heritage and small town feel. When she looks in the windows of that house, she herself is reminded of her mother cooking on the stove while she was running around in the open fields. We have the opportunity tonight to preserve that small town feel by exploring alternative options for the town hall expansion. Our best option is to focus on other priorities today with the eventual development of government offices located in Superior Town Center. Thanks.
Thank you. Additional public comment?
Laurel Russell, 212 West Maple. A lot of the things that I have strong feelings about have already been mentioned this evening. I don't think anybody's mentioned the fact that they talked about 8 months of construction, materials, vehicles, traffic, in a community with no infrastructure to accommodate more bike paths and people and buildings were built out in this little original town. Many years ago, which I'm sure we've all mentioned, the town center was supposed to be the staff. And I still feel like that's the most logical place for this to be put. I believe that even with the revisions, which I approve of some of the revisions, but by completing this building, in a few years, it's going to be outgrown. There's no doubt in my mind that it will be. And if you move the sheriff's department here, then you've got more buildings, and I say more buildings, vacant in Superior Marketplace. The parking is another issue. This morning I was up by the sheriff's department and the bridal shop offices, and I counted 10 vehicles. Part of them were personal. There were sheriff department cars. Now, whether all of those other vehicles belong there or not, or came with that, I don't know. But 10 vehicles. And if you go across the street to this Grasso Park, you'll see there's 10 spaces over there. So by moving that, all of those people would be taking up every parking space on this side. I don't think you're thinking very well about the parking, because especially if people are going to have additional people coming in to work with them, I don't see how you're going to accommodate that. And if you don't accommodate it here, that means you're going to be moving into the town. That means the people that live close are going to have to give up their parking spaces. I don't know if you've been to Louisville, but when they have all the big hubbub over there, all the people that live close to downtown, they can't park in front of their house, they can't get in their driveway, and I foresee a lot of that. Please consider taking that money across the street and locating your new building there. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment? Any additional public comment? Okay.
Sandy Hammerly, 2855 Rock Creek Circle. First of all, I want to say thank you to the trustees for slowing this process down a little bit. through the public comment that we've had thus far, which has been limited, we do have a better design than the ones we saw several weeks ago. I'm appreciative of the fact that we've got a one-story building, more in keeping with the nature of original town. We've got a building that more reflects modern office space in that we don't have private offices for everybody. And so I really do appreciate that you guys have listened to that. I appreciate the work that the architects have done, and I appreciate the fact that they're continuing to listen, particularly as it relates to the placement of the Sheriff's Department. On the other hand, if I lived in original town, I don't want a Sheriff's Department in my backyard. I seriously considered buying the house that is across the street that recently, I think it sold in January or February. If I had woken up and found out that all of a sudden, not only was this large building going across the street from me, now we all knew the town hall was probably going to expand. However, I'm not sure I would have been too thrilled to, no speaking badly of the Sheriff's Department, I wouldn't want it across the street from me up on Rock Creek Circle either. So I just think we need to think carefully about what's the correct placement of a Sheriff's Department. More importantly, though, I appreciate the process we've had thus far, but I think we need to continue to have open dialogue with the community, particularly the residents of Old Town. When Kevin sent out the survey today, I shared it with about 30 folks that I was fairly confident were not on the CAC. I received back 30 people. 6 of the 30, within 10 minutes, wrote me back and were completely unaware that this was taking place. I'm a little concerned about the disingenuous approach that the town took when they sent a memo out and said that we've had a great deal of public engagement on this town hall. Yes, indeed, it has been discussed, and I believe there were 7 meetings listed. One of those meetings took place during a board retreat. That retreat happened at a meeting between 10 and 3 in the middle of the day. It did not occur in the city of Superior. It occurred at the fire station in El Dorado. I discount that. At that point in time, you were talking about locations. We were not talking about design. We were not talking about the impact that it would have on community residents. I know I was at that meeting, and there were 2 other residents of the town of Superior there. Myself, Peter Bottomley from ProStack, and we were both there because there was some ProStack discussion, and then another gentleman who I don't know the name of. But there was little engagement. Then we talked about the fact that it was discussed at the budget meeting. I'm sorry, it was not a listed topic on the budget or on the meeting. We're talking about the budget. It was not the purpose to talk about design. It was not a purpose to talk about the placement. It was just a placeholder for the budget. We have a strong history in this community of having public engagement. I happen to have 2 charts here that we prepared in the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee of public engagement that happened on the Superior Town Center Parks and on the El Dorado K-8 property. There were 7 different sets of community engagement on the park. There were then an additional 4 meetings that the public could attend where it was listed that you could come and talk about that happened at ProSac and OSAC. There were then 8 or 9 meetings where it was listed as a topic at a trustee meeting. And yet we have had town hall listed on the agenda a whopping 4 times. 4. And all of those meetings have occurred between November and today. Less than 1 year. This property was acquired in 1999 or 2000, I don't know the exact year. But to say that we have had adequate public engagement on this process and have listened to the community and have done it in less than a year is simply unacceptable. I encourage you to continue the process, allow the community to have feedback, and I believe you can get this town hall built, and you can get it with the town's support, but you need to continue to listen.
Thank you. Additional public comment?
Hi, Tricia Dunham, 3574, here on Peak. I just have a couple of clarification questions that I wanted to ask. One is about the fire station. Does the town own that building, or is that owned by the
Rocky Mountain.
Rocky Mountain Fire District? So I think that is, I know we'd like to put the police back there, but I'm not sure that as a town we can say that can happen, so I just wanted to clarify that. The other question I had was for Officer Chamberlain, or Sergeant Chamberlain. The FTEs, how many are working the night shift, the day shift?
Hey, Tricia, can you just speak into the mic? He'll hear you.
All right, sorry. The FTEs of the Sheriff's Department, I was just wondering how many officers are on any given time?
Okay. We'll let him come back up and address that.
So for full-time employees that work out of our substation, during a normal week, Monday through Thursday, there's an officer who works from 7 to 5:30. And then our other two officers on day shift are divided up between the weeks. So one works Sunday through Wednesday, the other works Wednesday through Saturday with alternating Wednesdays off. On night shift, the officers work Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday with alternating Saturdays off. And then there's one swing shift cart that works the back half of the week, Thursday, Friday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and myself. So at most, during any given time, there are 3 officers working out of that substation. And that's during the day when I'm working.
Okay, thank you. All right, I have one other public comment that was emailed to us and requested to be read into the public record, so I'll do that. And this is from Daryl McCool. Dear Town Board, in light of the fact that many people like myself are out of town and you as a board are down 2 members this evening, I would ask that you please refrain from discussing town hall expansion until there's a full board and the public has a fighting chance of being in town and present for such meeting. Also, I want to address an issue that has not come up yet regarding the expansion. I believe this is a great opportunity to make a lasting mark into the future for the town of Superior. If we rush to build this expansion, we miss out on the ability to be innovative in a way that addresses today's staffing needs, but also takes into account the impacts over time. Let's do more than just make this a 9,000 square foot government building. Let's be inspired. A simple example would be to consider adding a rooftop garden to the building by adding a green roof. Green roofs are energy efficient. They play an important role in reducing urban temperatures and subsequent improvements in air pollution, smog, to name a few of their benefits. The options for a sustainable, forward-thinking building and cohesive neighborhood are limitless if given the proper time and attention. Let's also have a conversation that helps balance the scope of the project and protects existing neighbors. Please do not rush to this expansion. We have a tremendous opportunity to slow down and create something great for a future that benefits staff, the neighborhood, and every resident in town who ultimately is funding this building. I appreciate your time and effort on this matter. Daryl McCool. All right, is there any additional public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to additional board discussion. Okay, don't everybody jump in at once.
I guess I wonder if or when or how, well, I don't know. Are we ever going to consider revisiting the location of this town hall expansion? Or when does that come up and I sort of made a decision in the budget process and we've been asked to reconsider it, and we're hearing great improvements on what we're planning to do as an expansion, but are we ever going to have the meeting where we sit down and say, do we want to reconsider?
Well, in my mind, when we voted unanimously to spend the money on the design services, that was the design services for here.
Well,
and they can't be
that was
transported anywhere else. So
that was my understanding then too, but a lot has happened since we've done that. And so had a lot of engagement. And a lot of that engagement involved, should we do it here or across the street? I don't know that I've reconsidered my decision, but I wonder, should we have that discussion? I understand we've spent some money, but, if it turns out that having it here as opposed to in town center is not the right decision, then just proceeding because we ordered or have done some design would be throwing good money after bad, or So I'm not saying change our mind, but I'm saying we've had these designs come forth, but is there a time when we're going to engage and discuss where it should actually be, or are we just set on that?
Well, I think it's up to the board, and if the board decides that a different location is in order, then that's the direction we'll go. For me personally, I have not changed my opinion on where it should be.
I guess I'm thinking we owe the residents a clear decision that, we're not moving it or we are moving it at some point in time. And
I think for me, the biggest reason for not moving it is because we've got the issues that we decided to go down this path have not changed, and they're not going to change until something is done. And at best, I think even a town hall expansion is a year away, probably more. A town hall at town center is probably 2 or 3, and I think that I just think that's too long to delay this process.
I wasn't meaning for tonight to be the time for that discussion as much as just you get the feeling like we're hearing these designs and we like the new designs, but we're never really addressing and maybe sometime we should set aside, let's discuss, are we making the right decision on location? And have everybody weigh in on that, and maybe have some more engagement before we have that discussion.
Okay. Trustee
For
Pennington.
what it's worth to the residents out there and the residents watching, I too feel this decision was rushed. Elements of it popped up much faster than I had anticipated they would, and that's primarily the first 3 renditions of the floor plans. I did not feel we were at all at that phase when when those appeared on the agenda. I was surprised to see them, and I don't see the emergency here. We do face emergencies, but I don't feel this is an emergency. So I do think it's time to take a step back and revisit that conversation we had at the retreat, and Sandy Hammerly's exactly correct. That's when we had that discussion. In light of the new information and in light of what we're hearing from our residents, I feel we need to step back and revisit that discussion. We may end up at the same place, and that's fine, but we may not. And so to me, taking that time is really important to get this right. So I don't see any need to dig dirt sooner rather than later. Frankly, if this situation remedies itself in 2 years or 3 years, when we do have construction at Superior Town Center, if that is the best place to put this, then let's do it. And if it's not, we still retain the right to do it here. So I do encourage us to continue this slower path. I would like to see another aspect to this process added to clarify what and where in Superior Town Center would this go, or could this go? You referenced, Matt, some discussions you're having with the developer about the community space. I think this is a natural extension of that. So I would like us to take a breather and to investigate that further and include the public in the process.
Originally, in March of 2013, in the development agreement for the Superior Town Center, which I have in my hand here, there was part of that that said that the civic space would be up to 100,000 square feet. And it would include, could possibly include multiple things, including the town hall, library, rec center, blah, 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 blah. Everything and a whole bunch of other things. And that the developer would provide to the town a certain amount of space, like an acre and a half, I think, to build it. That was in March of 2013. So a lot transpired in many meetings and many hours of discussion. And also this developer's agreement says that the town is 100% responsible for design and construction of that space. Any space that happens in the town center. So all that the developer would have been providing is a spot to set the town hall in if we chose to do it. We'd have to pay for it. So if we actually go back and say, well, maybe we should do it over in the town center, I think we could get the developer convinced about that, but we're going to be talking about 3, 4, 5 times as much money that we're going to have to spend for it. So, you know, it's not an expansion to an existing building. It's starting from new. It's starting brand new. And it was decided in meetings before I was even on this board. I mean, I sat back there like all of you, and I heard the trustees and public were able to give comment about the cost of a town hall, and that many of us as residents, and now even as a board member, I don't believe it's in our best interest to build a brand new building for town hall. This one is fine, and expanding it would be a good idea in order to bring everybody together. The question that I think is only open to us now is whether now is the time to consider the expansion. Not whether or not to expand this building versus build a brand new building, which I don't think we should afford. We probably could afford $10 million to build a new building, but why would we spend that money when we have a functioning town hall here? So the only question I think that is before us now is, do we do an expansion now, or do we delay it again? That's really what we're talking about. Or do we try and get something that works for the majority of the people? You know, try to continue, not try, continue, not try, but actually continue to get input from everybody to make our town hall the best it can be, given the size and the space and the place and the character of where it currently exists. So I think the only question we need to think about, and we can get more input from everybody, is now the time to do it or not? There's nothing that's causing us to have to do something. We've just decided that let's look at concept designs. And that's what we're talking about here. There's nothing been decided. These are just concepts. We were talking about this in the retreat. We're actually the applicant here. The town is the applicant. A builder's coming forth to build a building in town, and that builder happens to be the town. So we're the applicant here. And we have to go through, as an applicant, the entire building planning approval process that any other applicant would have to go through. So what we're doing now is really in a concept phase. So I think that, and you all, I give you all credit, and I've told Daryl this and other people too, thank you for continuing to say, wait a second, listen to us. So I hope you see that we are listening. We haven't made a decision. We haven't spent any money other than to say, give us a concept, because we can't come up with an architectural concept. I can't do that. I'd like to be able to do it, but I couldn't. So we're looking at concepts. And I think now what we need to do is have more conversation, not so much to whether build a brand-new $10 million building across the way. The only question we have before us is now the time to expand this town hall? And we need some more meetings to talk about that. Oh, but, you know, we're not out there trying to say, let's do it and be damned with the people that don't want it or anything like that. What we're trying to do is get a good town hall that fits our space and our needs. I mean, the place space, who we are as a town of Superior. I would like to see the expansion, but I also don't want to see it done too quickly and try and have it appear that we're pushing something down the throats of the people that live around here. So I don't see any reason that we can't continue to have discussions, continue to try and figure out how can we make this more comfortable for all of us. But asking about revisiting going across the street, I'd rather spend those extra millions of dollars for a real community space that we've talked about over there, rather than a place where we're just going to come and have meetings till 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night or whatever time at night. But I think now the question is now the time to expand the town hall? And if after another set of discussions we determine it's not the time, well, then we postpone it. I'm not saying we are at that point, but that's the only discussion that I feel is a legitimate discussion to have right now. Is this the time to do an expansion of town hall?
Okay. Trustee Hanson?
Yep, sorry, so late. Meeting went way over. Yeah, I agree with Trustee Dozell. I'm not comfortable going back to the conversation of potentially having town hall over in the town center. I also agree that the cost would be significantly more, but also the opportunity cost of having other businesses in the places where the town hall might go. I also don't think that moving town hall over to the marketplace is a reasonable option. We'd be renting space there, and we don't know if we're going to be displaced in 2 years, and then what do we do when we have the opportunity to potentially build something out here? Honestly, I'm not happy with any of the options. I mean, there's some that are nice, but I don't think they're perfect. And I think just if we take a couple steps back and go through the process like we did when we first started brainstorming what the town center could look like, and really getting some good dialogue going on what we would like this to look like, whether it should be 1 story, 2 stories, what kind of parking, get all that kind of dialogue going. I think that we will have something that we all really like, including the residents that live back here. And that certainly is not going to happen overnight. That's going to force us to take our time a little bit and really put something on paper that we can all be proud of. It really needs to be clear that I know there's been some residents that have felt like the board is trying to pull a fast one and ram something down our throats and be secretive and all that, and that has never been the case, ever. Honestly, from my perspective, I felt like, this was our job, is to approve things like this, extensions of town hall. That's what we're supposed to be doing, whereas when we're talking about parks, putting in new parks and other amenities like that, that's absolutely something that I always thought that's what the community should be a part of. So, my bad. I apologize for not being a little more upfront and trying to pre-plan. But this board was never had the intention of trying to be less than transparent about this. So, I don't know if that helps out at all, but I do think that we should take a little bit more time to really go back and revisit this design. And I think just by default, that's going to slow this process down.
Okay. I would agree with Trustee Dozell's and your comments as well. I completely agree about the idea of moving across the street. I think had we started this discussion with, let's build a new town hall across the street, I think people would have come unglued at the fact that we wanted to build a new town hall and tear down this one. I think that it would have been a complete, I think the reaction would have been much stronger than the reaction that we're getting to this plan. So I think there's certainly pluses and minuses to each one, but I think the discussion at the board had was that it was going to be a significant, larger cost, which it would, to build something ground up across the street, and it could potentially take away from retail generating space over there. And there's a lot to like about this town hall, and that's what we came down on the conclusion, that we like this location. We like the way it functions, and it's got some possibilities for expansion. I like the one-story option. I think that there could be further refinements. I think Trustee Dozell's comment earlier about how can we get the sheriff's substation maybe accessible more to the north parking lot. I think those are good ideas, and that's probably the north parking lot is probably the least impactful location for parking of any. I mean, we currently use that lot right now for late night meetings, and it does not seem to be a problem. But I do think that we need to have much further dialogue on this, and we want to get it done right. We want to continue to hear from people, and we don't want people feeling like that we're rushing things through. It's certainly not been my intention, or I don't think anybody else's. So we appreciate the continued interest and involvement, and we want to get it done right.
So I think what we need to do next is schedule a public meeting where we just talk about this, another open house or public meeting that we would have further conversation about, to get inputs and impacts and further the dialogue about why here, when, and what it should look like and all of that, and continue to refine the concepts that we have. So I would like to see a meeting where we just focus on this and we actually be able to have conversations with people. That open house I thought was good. I don't know what some of you that were here, from the residents, but I would like another one where we can have real open dialogue in a more informal setting, but public, so
Yes.
that anybody can participate.
Well, I think it's important too to continue having updates or presentation. I'm not sure what the exact segment in the meeting is, whether it's updates or presentation or agenda item, but I mean we certainly need to hear from Trustee Gregorus and his thoughts, and make sure that make sure the whole board weighs in.
Two things. One, we didn't ask for a one-story design. After we looked at options 1, 2, and 3, we had a number of comments. A lot of them dealt with all the individual offices and the location of the offices, with the staff in the back rather than in the front, where customers come in. Neither did we ask for designs 1, 2, and 3. They have appeared. And it's a little bit backward, this process that we have done so far. And I'd like to use the next period of time to reverse the order, to actually hear from the community and hear from staff and hear from us what absolutely needs to be achieved in this building. And then go back and look at what we've got in front of us thus far and ask ourselves the question, has it been achieved here? And if not, let's figure out some iterations and some changes and whatnot to achieve it. Go ahead.
Option 4, some of the changes you see in option 4 were results from comments we did receive. Second floor, the building being too massive, so take off the second floor, that helps lower the profile. Parking on First Avenue has impact to residents, so take away that parking, add landscaping, make it more green. Some of those changes you're seeing tonight are a result of comments that we did.
I see that, but I attended the community meeting, and when option 4 popped up, I was surprised by that, and I have attended all of these meetings. And so I am pleased we have a consensus to slow down. I think we've got a consensus to have another public session. I think we've got to really figure out how that public session will be handled. I don't think it follows the theme of an open house, seeing yet another iteration. I think it's got to be more of an open discussion about what it is we're hoping to accomplish. I'm listening to, it seems, the predominance of opinion, which is to expand this area. I would remind us all, the original town center design that was in front of us at the time, a couple of years back, had the town hall right at the end of Main Street as a central feature of the end of Main Street.
It was in the center.
Huh?
It was in the center of Main Street, on the middle of Main Street.
Well, one was over
Well, it was
the
in
plaza.
that area because of the 75-foot, yeah. There were two
And the other one was at the, if you go back far enough in the iterations, it was at the end of Main Street, sort of a real focal point. So it's not like our community members have been hallucinating. We've gone through these iterations, and I can articulate lots of merits to actually putting it there, and to repurposing this as great retail and restaurant space. So, I mean, that's where how this discussion has evolved. Now, again,
I think we should truncate that discussion, because the problem with this location, and one of the other reasons that I was part of it is
Rita, you don't
because-
even have to go there, because I'm going to say I have to abide by the majority opinion here.
No, I'm saying that you talk about retail space. Access to this building is horrible. So selling this as a retail or restaurant space would be
Right.
horrible.
I'm sure the
Well-
residents would love retail and
Yeah,
restaurant space.
right.
But,
So it was another
noise
one.
there.
well,
of the
maybe
reasons.
maybe it's important, though, for residents to hear the yin and yang of this whole conversation, because you're hearing things tonight, I bet, that you haven't considered thus far. One of the options was actually to repurpose this as the town hall brew pub, right? To preserve its place in the history of the town, but in a fun restaurant type of theme. And maybe, Louise, you're sitting out there. Maybe you don't care to have the cars for a restaurant behind your house. And maybe all of a sudden the town hall seems like a nice, quiet option with a quiet parking lot at night. But we have gone round and about, because that's our elected role up here, to go round and about, look at all the iterations, and then arrive at a consensus. And so if my fellow board members don't have an appetite for even revisiting the town center as a location, I respect that, and I'll have to accept it. But definitely to slow this down, at least one more public process to now ask ourselves the question, is this all this can be? I think Daryl had an interesting idea of a rooftop sort of thing. Now, I'm not sure that's the function of what we want to achieve with a town hall, but it's an interesting concept. Is it or is it not? That kind of thing. So I'd like to have a meeting in which we all turn our attention in the same direction and see if we can't come up with some creativity and some creative collaborations where working together we maximize potential here rather than being acrimonious.
Okay. Anything further? So does staff have any final thoughts or good idea of kind of which direction we want to head? Okay.
So you'll find a time when we can have another meeting, right, Matt?
Yeah, it sounds like another open house sometime in August is what I'm thinking.
I wouldn't say an open house, I'd say a community meeting.
Yeah. Well, yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to find a
So, I mean.
Do we have another public comment back there? Where
Staff
you
and I
that?
will have
Yeah,
to get together with the consultant and talk about, timing and other things as well.
Okay. All right, additional public comment? Why don't you come up?
Oh, now we can really get crazy because our attorney's leaving. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, Tricia Dunham again, 3574 here on Peak. I just wanted to say on the meeting time, Boulder Valley schools go back to school August 18th. I would suggest that the meeting not happen until after school is back in. That sort of will help with the vacation schedule problem that people feel that some meetings are happening while they're not in town.
Right. It couldn't be before then anyway, August, sometime in August.
Okay, good
But
point. Thank you. All right, any additional comments or thoughts? Okay.
Yes, Brian Hill, Kyoto Lane. Hey, I just wanted to note that with the McCaslin Main Street roundabout construction due to begin in the fall, that it probably is a good idea to maybe postpone any decisions, especially related to construction in here, because I think there's going to be a lot of turmoil associated with that construction and the continued construction in town center. And that's it. I have other thoughts, but I'll just email them to the board. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, anything further? All right, anything further from the board? Okay, we're adjourned.